level of income doesn't come from a strategy, which is crazy because I'm a strategist, but who you decide to be. In today's episode, we are unpacking the mindset of $1 million coach, $1 million service provider, and the outer actions that are not as impactful, but as the inner alignment that really does magnetize your dream clients, that you can charge those premium prices, and that brings on effortless visibility. If you've been doing all the things and perhaps not seeing the results, then this episode is for you. And once again, I'm Ariane, your hostess with the mostest on the Be Create Inspire podcast. And I'll tell you, there's evolution that comes with growth. And if you're looking at me right now and maybe did a flashback at 20 years ago, Ari, obviously 20 years is a big span, but can I tell you, it feels like lifetimes. If you would have asked me even 10 years ago when I was in the midst of a personal and professional dilemma, if I would be where I am today, having a podcast, written a book, coached hundreds and if not thousands of people, was co-owner of the largest yoga trade show in the United States, I would not believe you. So what happened, right, in order for this journey to occur? Who did I need to become? Well, there was things that were conscious and things that were subconsciously occurring that I really believe led to this shift, to this journey. But most importantly, it was really the belief that there was something more, and that I, little old Ari, who never had grandiose dreams of anything, could achieve. And when I tell you that, I'm being super vulnerable, because if you ask me what my dream was when I was in high school, and I was, mind you, a straight A student, I went to a very, demanding high school, all girls Catholic. What I wanted to do, I wanted to have a scooter, live in South Beach, and work without shoes. That was literally my definition of success. I just wanted to travel the world. And that's kind of what I did at 21 years old when I was in architecture school at the University of Miami. I was living in South Beach. I had a scooter. And for the most part, I didn't wear shoes. And that continued until I started teaching yoga, even working in the photography industry. I could go to work in flip-flops. So my life was set. But I was still in that like hustle mode. There wasn't an essence of leadership. It was more like a joie de vivre, living spontaneously and flying by the seat of my pants. It wasn't very structured. And, that kind of hit a brick wall when I opened a yoga studio back in 2012, where we grew massively. We were one of the best studios here in Miami. Thank you for that, everybody who supported us back then. And I had, 15 people to account for. I had insurances. I had a $6,000 rent. There was relationships, partnerships. So I had to become a new me in order to navigate all that. So if you think that evolution comes with time, that's not true, right? So there's a myth of the doing your way to success, right? Hustle doesn't equal alignment. Like, let's just start with that. Hustle does not equal alignment. And doing more versus being more, sometimes yes, sometimes no. So let's go into the hustle doesn't equal alignment, because there's a subtle energy shift. And it all really started when I got a coach. I got a coach, and then I became a coach. Okay. So I'll tell you this transformation was actually pretty epic, because I had a lot of mentors in my life. My yoga teachers who were my seniors. I had a lot of guides, spiritual guides, professional guides, but I never really had a business mentor, and one who was in such alignment to the being. So when that happened, it almost like flipped the switch inside my head that made me realize, hey, not only is this mentor coaching me and helping me become the better version of me, because that's really what a coach is, if you look at it, right? It's taking an athlete and making them be better. It's taking, you're working in a position and taking them to be better. So a coach does that. And that was really powerful because I had never really experienced it in that realm. I had teachers, yoga teachers and yoga mentors who helped me develop my inner spirituality and maybe my physical, right, through the poses and especially through acro yoga. But there was this essence of like achievement and the next level, which was a little foreign to me, because when I was in full on yoga mode, my sense of achievement and being more maybe meant doing a harder asana, like landing a better handstand as an acro yoga teacher. But the spirituality journey wasn't about being anything. It was about literally just being me. So this was it kind of dug into my, I guess, inner person, because I realized that I'm actually quite a high achiever. And even though I never considered myself that, again, I graduated, cum laude from university. I always got, did well at things, but I never was like yearning for it. Not consciously, at least. So working with my coach, I realized that I do like to achieve things. I like to do well. I like to succeed. And it makes me happy. It makes me feel proud of myself. And with that awareness, simple awareness, I was able to release all these old paradigms, all these old belief systems that were actually holding me down. And I was like, you know what? Screw everybody that doesn't believe in me. I remember a friend, I got a Mercedes a few years ago, and it was like this super nice, very sleek. And she's like, you're a yoga teacher. How are you driving a Mercedes? Or like, why? You should be driving like a Volvo. And I was like, well, I don't know. I like sports cars. I felt bad about that. I was like, oh, maybe I should be driving like a Volvo or a Honda or whatever, right? Not a sports car, an expensive one at that. And I realized that when I was okay with myself, right, that I was in this inner alignment, that I let go of a lot of the things that were weighing me down. So we call these sinkers, okay, or anchors, right? An anchor keeps you stuck. And I allowed myself to fly. And that doing more, right? Because I could do a lot of videos, but if I wasn't confident behind those videos, then doing more videos wasn't going to really do anything. And if I wasn't, right, in true belief that I could help people, and if I wasn't bold, and if I wasn't disciplined, how could I even do more? So it all really goes back into that essence of being. Because if you're not being strong, powerful, self-assured, right? We can add so many adjectives. Like this year for me, the word is disciplined, because I get shiny syndrome. So I'm like discipline, and really is about being more perceptive, right, to what's happening around me versus moving so fast. So it's that essence of being that allows us, right, that subtle energy shift. Because here's the thing that happens. Like your inner identity really creates our external reality, hands down, right? Like our self-image affects what we charge, our self-image, who we attract, and who we allow into our lives, into our programs. And that, I'm telling you, like that inner identity, when we shift into this essence of leading, right? If you haven't watched my masterclass, Lead, Teach, and Impact, it really is the trifecta of this forward momentum, right? Because that leadership, that inner alignment to being a leader, to being a strong guide for others. And I think this got heightened for me when I became a mother 5 years ago. It was massive, right? The potential that I now had to make wise decisions, to make sure to guide others in a place of wisdom versus advice, and really understand that that inner leader is going to be resilient to so many things that actually, again, 10 years ago, Ari would have just knocked me down. And I'll give you guys an example. So when I had the yoga studio, I had one of my business partners. He really didn't like me. I also didn't like him after a while, right? Because sometimes business creates tension. And he would just send me nasty texts and be just emotionally abusive. And because I had this perception that I was not as strong because I wasn't like, he was in corporate world and I didn't know enough and he was like wiser than me. I had a perception, right? It would knock me down so much, like tears, shaking, so much that my mom is like, who are you? I've never seen you like this. And the person who I am now who's embodied that inner leadership, that resilience, no way, man. Or like we say in Miami, no way, bro. Right? There was no way that I would let anybody get me into that state because of the evolution of who I've become. So ask yourself, like, are you embodying the version of you who already has the results? Are you upgrading your belief system, right? Are you allowing the self-image that is a ephemeral perception of you, like, take over and blocks you from your success? So I want you to look at, like, there might be signs that you're not $1 million coach identity. And when I say coach, like, it really does embody that essence of like guidance and mentor. Like, you are now in a place where you're teaching teachers, guiding others into powerful transformation. So what is this, right? Are you doubting your value? Are you over-explaining your services and offers? Like, you almost have to convince people that, like, no, it's me. I'm good, right? Are we avoiding visibility? Or are we feeling busy but not really making any traction? Right? What are these some things that maybe you're embodying currently that are, blocking you for that next program launch, or for your next powerful conversation, or for, a bold move? I'll tell you, when I was invited to buy a business, I had never bought a business before. Like, again, talk to Ari version 1.0, be like, oh, Ari, in a few years, you're going to be buying a business. I'd be like, yeah, right. I know nothing about that. I just started teaching yoga and I work at an advertising agency. Buying a business, huh? And then boom, 7 years ago, I was buying the Yoga Expo. And then I bought a license. And then a few years later, I bought the entire brand. So if you see this evolution, right, it really is, it wasn't coming from a place. I used to live a lot in doubt. I would always give discounts. I would always undercharge, right? I would always have to feel like I had to, explain things so many times because I was scared. I was so scared. I was living in fear. And because I had gotten some, what's it called? Like, when people like speak bad about you, gossip, around like visibility. And I had done this whole campaign where I was like a yoga, where I became a yoga model, for certain things. And like people started talking bad about me. So that was a long-winded explanation for that. I hid. I was like, no, I don't want to be, I don't need pictures. I don't need this. There was a lot of self-esteem stuff that came up. So I've had to get over all of that. Like, start a YouTube channel? Sure. I had to get over that self-esteem. Like, what are people going to think about me? Or like, are they going to be, maybe I don't know enough yet. Like that self-imposter, which is like still there all the time. And I've become really good friends with her. So what are some daily practices that we can do to like embody that inner leader? And it really is about doing the work. I promise you guys, like, there was one exercise then, and I still do it. And I know when I do it, it comes from a place of like, I can beat this exercise. I'm not going to let it beat me. And it is coming from a place of fear a lot of the times. But again, I've become really good friends with fear. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions in a minute that hopefully will resonate with you. So I want you to do something. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, right? Eyes are the windows to the soul. I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and I want you to say, I'm $1 million business owner. That's it. And I want you to become a witness. What are the thoughts? What are the words? What are the noises, right? If we look at yoga, like chitta vritta, like what is that chitta? What is that noise that's coming up? Pay attention to it because that is you. You're like crappy you and all the stories that are associated to that, right? Those threads, those golden threads that are attached to maybe like, I don't know, a parent telling you that like, oh my God, you're crazy for becoming a yoga teacher and not going into architecture school. Or it could be, right? Did I hear that? I heard that. Or it could be like, what do you do for a living? I don't understand. Or like, hey, you should really get security around, being an entrepreneur. I was actually really blessed. My parents always kind of left me to my own devices. But there were some times where things are like stories around money. Like, do I deserve to have $1 million business? Like all that stuff is real. And the more that we can, sit with these subconscious stories, like the more that we can, tend to them and heal them. And I'm going to read something very briefly from this book by John Assaraf called Inner Size. I put on my glasses. So this was a really great perspective shift for me. And I'll give it, I lost it, of course. Okay. There's the aspect of like, am I setting goals or am I achieving goals? Right? Why must you achieve these goals? Are you interested or are you committed to achieving these goals and living the life of your dreams? Okay. So when I say this, when I say these words and when I ask myself these questions, it's like, am I willing to do the work that's going to remove that block so that I can achieve that goal? And how committed am I? Like, I know I have so much money stories to still do. And I do the work. I ask myself those questions. I write my journal. So when I said that I was going to have you do an exercise in a minute, this is that minute. So apart from looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself like, or saying that bold statement, or like, I make $500,000 a year, or I'm speaking in front of, 10,000 people. Okay. That's number one. Number two is asking yourself, what is your relationship to fear? Right? Does fear hold you back? Or does fear push you forward? If you were standing at a doorway and that doorway was fear, are you falling backwards and being like, nope, and you close that door? Or are you being bold and stepping forward? Because you might have heard this before, but I love to remind myself about it, which is growth is in the scary places. Growth is when you make that extra investment. Growth is when you decide to buy a clothing company like I just did. Please check out moveathleticwear.com. And you start, playing in the e-commerce world where you know nothing about. There's so much growth. You know how much I've learned in the last 8 months about e-commerce? Stuff I had no idea that I ever was going to know or that needed to know. But now I know. And I'm on this big journey to, that next step. So think about like becoming this like magnetic energy because you're full of, again, wisdom versus advice. That's huge because you have a different relationship to fear because you're not listening to the naysayers that might be decades, centuries in your bloodline, but you're breaking these patterns. So embodying that trust, that confidence, that groundedness in your messaging, in your brand, in what you're putting out into the world, right? Because your clients are going to buy your energy. They're not going to buy the, oh, here's my next offer, amplify, right? I mean, yes, here is my next offer. It's amplify. Let's amplify the crap out of you and help you, become that ripple effect. It's not the features, it's the result that you are going to experience. So I want you to be seen in your power and see how that's going to change your business trajectory. Because if you've spent, time and money becoming an expert in your field, and maybe you don't consider yourself an expert, but if you're, 10 steps ahead of your client, they see you as an expert. So own it for a moment. Because when people are like, oh, you're such a business expert, I'm like, pah! And then I'm like, wait, you know what? I am. I own 4 freaking businesses. I know something. Actually, I know a lot of things. So I want you to really look at this, right? And allow that to sink in for a minute, because I want you to be seen in your power and see how that power changes your business trajectory. And look, you really don't have to wait, right? You don't have to wait for that bank account to become that coach, to become that expert, to become that mentor, that guide, because the version of you who creates and who is paid generously and who lives in alignment is one decision away to become that leader, to teach others, to guide them in your systems, in your frameworks, in your signature methods. Because let me tell you, there is nothing better than that. So if you're ready, right? If you're ready to embody this identity of being this version 2.0 or 3.0 or 4.0 of yourself, of building these ecosystems, of building the offers that match your energy, who you are becoming, because you, just by listening to this, you've become a new person. I would love to invite you to join me. We have a couple of spots open in Amplify. We open once a month. And this is a wonderful opportunity for you to really check it out, because I believe that you and your gifts of wellness, of health, of making the world a better place belong, and people deserve to experience your magic. So the link is in the show notes. You can schedule a call. You can check out what the program looks like. But this is, like I said, an opportunity for us to evolve together, and for me to witness your journey, and to be your guide and your mentor. Thank you so much for today. Please make sure to share this podcast if somebody is wanting to see what the evolution of a leader is. And I'll see you guys in the next one.